Well, good morning, friends, and welcome to Wake Up in the Word. Thanks for joining me this morning. Grab a cup of coffee and go to Genesis chapter 40. I'm going to read just one short paragraph there, but kind of zero in on something that lays the groundwork for the rest of this chapter. So come and join me as we wake up in the Word this morning. But when it comes to praying today, looking at the situation in our nation and the world is it's quite perplexing today. Many of us feel, as Joseph probably could have felt, that we are the victims of much wrong and unrighteousness, bitterness, and misplaced feelings and injustice all around the world. It's something that seems to go on over and over. And then the reactions by some of these folks that seem to be in charge really blows our mind. This week, Facebook and Twitter have lost an estimated combined $51 billion in market value after permanently banning the President of the United States. Really? Now, these are the hypocritical institutions upon which I'm broadcasting, by the way, that uh, that also allow on their platforms some people who speak some of those radical and hateful and slanderous things ever. It seems like the same rules don't apply to them. But the President of the United States, who told everybody to go home after his rally at the Capitol, is somehow responsible for anything an individual may have done afterwards in an assault on the Capitol. Friends, the same rules should apply to everybody, right? And we scream unfair when it's obvious that they don't. And something else has happened that you will not hear about. It happened about a month ago. And for many of my friends who are in Uganda, in Africa, that actually watch my devotionals, you will have known about this particular incident taking place, but very few people outside of your country would even know that it took place. What happened? Another black man beaten to death. You didn't hear about it on the news media in the United States. Oh no. Why didn't you hear about it? Well, number one, it happened in Africa, and it seems like for the news media over here, it's almost like who cares what happens in Africa? Yet every day the injustices mount in many of those countries. It was Muhammad who famously said, quote, whoever changes his religion, kill him, end quote. And many of his followers do just that. They figure, hey, this is our master. We should follow whatever he says. And in obedience to their leader, a number of them in a village in Uganda did murder Yusuf Kintu. Yusuf was 41 years of age and a former imam of a Muslim mosque in the area in which he lived. But confronted with the truth and the claims about Christ, back on November the 30th, he gave his heart and his life to Jesus, and he left Islam. The rage that came from some of the people in that area, even though Uganda is not, my friends, an Islamic state, is not under Islamic law, and yet many of them, enraged, attacked Yusuf, beat him into a coma from which he later died in the hospital. Friends, this is what happens to many people who are unjustly attacked and sometimes murdered for something like becoming a Christian. But you'll never hear this story on the major news outlets in the United States. Yet many of the outlets that we still do wake up in the word on, and many Christians still are able to share Christ and share the gospel in those outlets, also host people like Ali Dawa, who when talking about the ability to execute those who might convert from Islam to anything else or just to throw it away altogether, says we're proud of that. We're proud of that? Yes. This Muslim YouTuber says that capital punishment is absolutely necessary, especially under Sharia law, and that what you should do first and foremost is form an Islamic state, and then you should be able to execute all of these heathens who become Christians. So, my prayer request today is singular and simple. It's for those believers who live in the areas where they must fear for their lives, especially if someone converts to Christianity. If you convert to Christianity from Islam, you're taking your life into your own hands in some of these countries. You should be able to do so freely here in the United States, but in the United States, today, Christian beliefs by themselves increasingly will gain you more and more ridicule. So, friends, let's be much in prayer today, as it seems like we can all become victims if we're not careful. Well, that's exactly what happened to Joseph, as once again he has, in this case, just tried to avoid temptation and do what is right. Yet at the end of chapter 39, it tells us that Joseph has been thrown in prison. His master, Potiphar, took him and put him in the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. So we find Joseph in chapter 40, verse 1, sometime later. So here is Joseph. No one seems to be paying any attention to him. They've forgotten him. They've tossed him in prison. Is he angry at God? There's not one word of him spouting his bitterness at God, of him being upset at God, of saying, oh, my circumstances are unfair. Well, they may have been, but this is not what Joseph leans on. Now, how do you feel today about your circumstances? You may be in the hospital and nobody can even visit you. They're not allowing you any kind of comfort from family or friends that can come and see you. You're there with COVID, and the only person you see is an attendant, some nurses or other people that work for the hospital or doctors that are behind face shields that come to work with you. Boy, you really feel like you're in prison. But listen, yours is a short term situation. It's going to be just a little while. Our very first words in chapter 40 just say, sometime later. Joseph is thrown in jail with no opportunity to even think he may get out. He may spend the rest of his life in this prison. He doesn't know. And yet, we see that there is still hope there in the middle of his prison. Sometime later, it says the cupbearer and the baker, the king of Egypt, offended their master. And the king of Egypt, Pharaoh, was angry with his two officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, and he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard in the same prison where Joseph was confined. Isn't it amazing? People are treated unfairly every day. I don't know what these two guys did to offend the Pharaoh. Doesn't really matter. Pharaoh's the one that holds the keys to the jail. He's the one in charge. And that's the way it is with most of us. We are manipulated by those who have the power, who have the money, who have the prestige, and we quite often are treated badly by them. What you going to do about that? Well, you're going to land in jail just like Joseph did, and just like the chief baker and the chief cupbearer landed in jail with him. Now it's interesting there, it says in verse 4, watch, remember, everywhere Joseph goes, it seems like he rises to the top. It says the captain of the guard assigned those two characters to Joseph, and he attended them. So here's, again, looks like just something to do, an assignment Joseph is given. Could he have any idea that this very assignment would be part of what would allow him to eventually escape this prison? But look at the patience that's required to wait on the Lord in times of distress. Again, it was some time later before Joseph even had these two people come into the prison. It would be much, much later before God would work through one of those to actually get him out of prison. In the meantime, it seems like Joseph is just being treated badly. How do you feel today? You feeling like a victim? Have you noticed that everybody else is going into victim status today? Everybody's got to have a reason to be a victim, and then we're supposed to gain your sympathy for it. Folks, life is very unfair. That's to all of us, regardless of your nationality, your religion, the color of your skin, your background. Life can be terribly unfair. And what's going on in the world today to remove the wealth of most common people and put it in the pockets of the ultra rich is even more disgusting to many of us. But friends, that's what life is like in a society that is broken, one that is full of sin, one that was broken in the Garden of Eden, one that Jesus says is so broken it can't repair itself, and it can only be repaired when he returns. That's where we are. If you will, as Joseph does, hang on, because the very next sentence says, after they had been in custody for some time. Friends, that's what we don't want to hear. We want it to all be solved today, tomorrow, at the latest, maybe 2 days. Lord, get busy. Get me out of this mess. Friends, it's not going to happen. Be patient. And in your patience, possess ye your souls, the word says. So hang in there, my friends, and we'll see what patience gets us if we keep trusting the Lord through it all. As tomorrow we'll see how God acts if we're just not willing to get too concerned over his timing. We let God be God and we rest in his promises. God bless you. I'll see you again right here tomorrow as we wake up in the Word. In the meantime, pray especially for those who are really the victims. You think you got it bad? Look around. There are people in this world who really need our prayers, and you need to focus on interceding for them. God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow right here.